What are some skills a software developer should know in 2024? Well, one of the skills is refactoring code. What is refactoring, you might ask? Refactoring is making something you have already done better. And why should you use time on making something you have done already better and not just focus on doing it best from the start? Well, we are human beings and we are not perfect at all. And what does it mean to not be perfect? Well, you can probably answer that yourself. It means that we make mistakes. We need to process on the same thing in order to become perfect. Let's say that you are playing the guitar. And when you are playing the guitar, do you think about being Mozart while you're playing? Well, not if you haven't played for a long time. You're probably trying to find out, is this G or is this D? Is this E-moll? Is this F sharp? Oh, do I put my finger there or there? Right? And once you practice, you might sound like this. And once you sound like this, you can probably just quit. But that's not the reality for everyone. The reality is that we need to practice and practice and practice. And we try again, we try again, we try again. We fail, and we fail. And once we have failed enough times, that's when we start to understand, oh, this is actually how you should do it. And we learn by the mistakes that we are doing. The same thing are actually applicable in programming and software development in general. Why is it applicable in software development? Because we tend to write a lot of code. We have clients that wants to get things done, wants this feature done and that feature done this way and that way. But you are the expert, you are the software engineer. So once you know everything that you should know from learning new things and learning frameworks and learning different way of thinking, that's when you can go in and solve a problem efficiently, right? That's true. But does that mean that you don't make mistakes while you're trying to make the client happy? Well, of course, that's where bugs comes into the picture. Oh, you definitely don't want a bug like that on your back, right? So when you have a bug like that on your, not a bug anymore, a boss or a client, then you know that you need to fix it ASAP. So instead of having to put things together afterwards, you should spend time to refactor your code. So what is really refactoring? As I said in the beginning of the video, I said that refactoring is taking something that you have created and making it a lot better. And then we talked about why not do that afterwards. Well, then you might get a visit from a guy like this. You don't want that. And especially don't want that in a critical application where people are counting on all of the things that the application are doing for their clients. Let's say that there are stakeholders that have invested millions, and suddenly you have these bugs and it starts to pop up here and there in the middle of the night while you are traveling to a really beautiful country and you want to get some sun. And then the boss or the client is calling and they said, ooh, we don't just have some problems, we have a lot of problems. So how can you leverage your skills as a software developer to at least not have many of those? Because we need to face it, we are not perfect. We will have this, but how can we have less of them? Well, refactoring, test-driven development, or testing your code afterwards, which I will talk about in another video. If you are interested in that, check out the curriculum on my website, which are in the making. But for now, we can focus on the refactoring part. And I want to talk about a book that I was recommended by a colleague of mine. I haven't read that book actually, because honesty is the key. But you should, because it's about refactoring your code, making it up to standards in terms of how you can become more efficient when you're writing software. So when you're writing software, think about what are you trying to get out of a function. Are you trying to just get things done, or do you want to write clean and efficient code? So I would advise you to program for 1 hour. Then I would advise you to go out and take a coffee, maybe relax a little bit, and try to think about the problem, but not think about it actively. It will come as a solution to you. Once you go back to the keyboard, that's when you want to look at the code from another perspective. Does the code that you wrote 30-40 minutes ago look very good? Well, it has some good standards because you are the coder, so you would think like that. But try to be critical against yourself. Now, when you look at the code, try to think, would another developer understand what I have written here? So delivering code is like delivering something that another person can use, like a tool set. So you want that tool set to be of the best shape, so he doesn't need to call you in order to say, how do I really use this tool set? So once you go back to the computer, you look at it from another perspective and you say, yes, here I'm returning this from this function. But if you are writing a news application, it could be return latest news from API. And then you can start to refactor it so it's up to the standards that you want it to be. But not just what you want it to be, not just the client want it to be, but what other developers that are going in as another team, they look at the code and say, okay, delivering results from news API or delivering news articles from API. Okay, at least I get some context of the meaning. And that's refactoring. And then you look at it, okay, this function is doing a lot of things. How could we make it a little bit shorter? Well, you go and ask ChatGPT. No, try not to do that. Try instead to look at it from another perspective and see if you can make it a bit smaller, because using your brain actively every day will make you a better programmer. So once you see that the refactored code or the refactored function are starting to become a bit more sharp in a way, then you can drink your coffee and look at it and kind of be a bit proud of your work. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your work if you are putting your effort into it. Actually, being proud of your work is something that wants you to deliver work even better the next day or the next hour. So now that the functions are not behaving differently, but the code inside are a bit cleaner, that's when you know that you have refactored your code. So what did you learn from this video? As a software engineer, instead of having all these bugs, which you can try to minimize by test-driven development or testing your code afterwards or while you're programming, you should also try to use at least 20 minutes after you have coded something, after your break, to just have a fresh eye and look at it from another perspective and see, can I refactor this a little bit? You can even set aside sessions for doing this. And this is crucial because a lot of code becomes just forgotten and it becomes legacy code, which nobody wants to touch. And instead of putting it out, putting it aside, you would like to tackle it right away. I know this is kind of hard thing to develop. This is actually kind of like going and taking the dishes out right away, instead of waiting and hope that somebody will come and do it for you, because they are not. If you're not living with somebody else in a shared flat or your wife, I'm just kidding, they will not come and do it. So it's up to you to do it. So once you learn that you can actually just do it right away, that's when you start to learn a new technique. That new technique are going to make you not just a good programmer, but a really good programmer. And it will show not clients, because they don't usually see the code, but it will show people that are working with you that you take pride in your work and delivering results. But it should also make you understand the code a bit better, let's say 1 or 2 weeks after you have been on that vacation. You come home and you look at the name and it actually makes sense this time. So software development and having refactoring as a tool set in your belt is definitely going to make you a better software developer or software engineer.